With regards to strengthening patterns, it's good to have a basic understanding of what we want to do. Instead of us jumping right into the usual, I do my muscles, right? I do my muscles and I get my muscles stronger, which is great. It's good to have a more rudimentary understanding of what's going on. How can I approach it? What are some of the different ways to approach it? So when it comes to strengthening, we have exercises that we can do where our extremity is moving freely through space. We call that an open chain exercise. Right? So if I'm like this, we would say that's an open kinetic chain. My hand is moving freely and I'm working my bicep. Here I'm working my tricep. If I switch over to doing a pattern where my hand is fixed on a surface, like a little push-up of some sort, right, then I'm getting into a closed chain pattern. And typically we would say closed chain patterns relate a little better to function than an open chain, but they're both good patterns to have a rudimentary understanding of. Another important aspect to understand is that we tend to organize our exercise on either a local level, so just doing a bicep curl like that, that's a local exercise, or a regional level. Maybe I'm starting to engage my core, my anterior deltoid as I do that. Or maybe a more global exercise, right, where maybe I'll pull, stand up, do something that basically gets the entire system moving. So the more global you approach an exercise with your movement patterns, the more functional the pattern. From a Tai Chi perspective, I'd like you to appreciate that you could also be local in your focus, regional and global. Right? So if I'm just only thinking of my belly, my center of gravity, as I cruise around and do my Tai Chi patterns, that's a little more of a local focus. Maybe I'm thinking just of the alternating heaviness and lightness or emptiness in my legs as I shift my weight from one leg to the other. That would be more regional. And then if I'm going into the pattern where I'm doing perhaps a pressing motion and I'm focusing from my foot all the way through my leg, up through my back, to my hand, like the kinetic chain, we're saying that the chi is coming up through me, whatever words you want to use, that's more the global focus. And I can even go outside myself and start to imagine that I'm surrounded by a sphere, for example, like I got my personal space. And then I could just move through the same pattern and have awareness of my personal space, right? So I have personal space in front of me, besides me, above me, and behind me. And the awareness of my personal space, the distance between my hands and my feet, any of these aspects influence the way the movement is experienced, the sensation of the movement, the way the muscles are being recruited. So really it becomes, when you have this basic understanding of local, regional, and global, internal versus external awareness, you have a really wide array of approaches that you could choose when you do any strengthening pattern, which makes it for me much more interesting. Some people, they like just to crank out the curls. They like the feel of the muscle. But what I'm telling these people is there's more under the surface, but if that's all you want to do, that's fine. So let's just take it from a simple bicep curl and think about 3 ways you could approach it. The most standard way is just going to be palms face forward. You could turn your palms to face each other, or you could turn your palms back. Right? Depending on the direction that your palms are facing, you'll be working different muscles in the forearms. Right? You can also go into more of a spiraling pattern. So you turn the arms as you come up. This movement actually recruits a little more of the biceps musculature because the biceps has a component of supination like this. As you come up, you could also, if you want to get more specific isolation into the bicep, you could extend the wrist a little bit like this. So you extend the wrist and really squeeze the muscle, right? You can come up and just like squeeze that as hard as you can. Exhale, squeeze, contract your core a little bit as you do it. Then as you come up, you could, if you like, start to do some combined movements where you lift your elbows a little bit. Go a little more out as you do it. And of course, you could do a sit to stand as you do your curl and just continue to find some different ways to approach it. If you happen to have a tendon issue, tendinopathy or tendinitis, whether it's short-term or long-term, it's not a bad idea to practice doing some isometric exercises which means you're just going to hold the position for about 6 to 10 seconds. This is just a position that would help you to further isolate the bicep muscle. So just holding for a little bit. You're not going to really get much work at this range unless you're using a cable. So if you're using dumbbells, just think about how gravity is affecting the weight, right? There's got to be some torque. There's the fulcrum at your elbow, right? So the further away the weight is from the elbow, the more torque there's going to be on the muscle. If you want to get even stronger contraction, you can just really squeeze the weight as hard as you can, right? So you just get there and really squeeze that weight. So here I'm going more into muscle awareness a bit. So I'm squeezing, and now I'm going to squeeze that bicep muscle and just try to get it to really contract. But if I'm doing this for myself, which I do occasionally take more of a muscle focus, I'm still going to organize it with the awareness of my head and my tail, lengthen through the spine. I want to be open and soft in the chest, open in the back. I want my armpits to feel like they're open, so I have the serratus anterior muscle connecting my arms to your back. And I don't want to just be leaning and collapsing as I do an exercise. I want to feel open, right? So my legs are part of it as well. Again, it's all good, except perhaps if you're doing something that's causing you pain, in which case you need to drop the weight do fewer repetitions, or see your physical therapist.